All right, go for it.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever in the world you are. It's V, the Gorilla Economist, coming to you live here with our main guy working the podcast and the airwaves. It is none other than CJ, aka El Cuco himself. And we have with us the one and only Ken Schortgen Jr. He is from the website, thedailyEconomist.com, thedailyEconomist.com, and he also writes and contributes to roguemoney.net. Check out his work. He's probably one of the best. He is one of the best in terms of having a really good grasp of what the heck is going on in the world. His articles are timely, poignant, and powerful. So, folks, check that out. Without further ado, Ken, what's up, buddy? How are you?
Hey, good to be here. It's been a little while, but
it's
always great to be on the Rogue Money staff here.
Yes, absolutely, man. It's been far too long, and we shouldn't go this long without having you on, dude.
I can dig it.
Me too. I'm just trying to fix with my mic here.
I'm sorry. Is that a play hint, V?
No,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, guys.
It's all good. But so many things are going on. Ken, where do you want to start, man? Where do you want to start?
Oh, well, there's an esoteric type thing that's been discussed, but I think I've got a different point of view. It may be right, it may be wrong, but it's something that popped in my head the instant I saw it. Okay. And it has to deal with Nicolas Maduro and his nice little petro cryptocurrency.
Yes.
Well, most people instantly, they started talking about, oh, this is Venezuela's way. They're going to get back at the United States and they're going to get against the dollar, and this is how they're going to beat the petrodollar. The first thing popped in my head, because I wrote an article back in October.
Yeah.
Where Zimbabwe, which is really a very similar instance to Venezuela. Mm-hmm. They both have tyrannical dictators. They both are in hyperinflation. And, pretty much the military has a significant part of supporting that dictator. Well, in October, the finance minister for Zimbabwe came out and said that we are going to see about saving up reserves of oil, gold, and diamonds to back the currency. Okay. Well, as we know, Mugabe didn't make it before that took place. And interestingly enough, when Nicolas Maduro came out with his petro cryptocurrency, it was exactly 1 week after Mugabe had been thrown out by a coup by his military. Now, what's going on in Venezuela? One, they are running out of hard currency. What do you think who's the military going to support if they can't get paid?
Whoever pays them.
Two, what is this petro cryptocurrency going to be backed by? Oil, diamonds, and gold. Sound awfully familiar. It just, to me, came out too quickly after Mugabe was overthrown, and the amount of hard currency that Maduro still has is hemorrhaging. Nobody's lending him any money, and I think they're at the point that this is just a scheme to try to retain in power for a little bit longer. Because if you can't control your own sovereign currency, how is the world going to trust you to have a cryptocurrency?
Exactly correct. That's a very good point you brought up. Since that whole Mugabe being neutralized, so to speak, we're not hearing much of anything going on with Venezuela and Nicolas the Sweetness, the bus driver Maduro, except the wafting sounds of bachata music as he continues to dance while his country burns again.
Yeah, when you've got the entire population having to go into prostitution and barely can afford to buy food, everything's under price controls, the military is only going to stand by as long as they get paid.
Yeah.
And that's why I've been looking at the balance of hard currency they've got. Earlier in the summer, they were down to 10 billion. They defaulted on their loans, so they're not getting any new ones. And Russia did not give them any new money. They just renegotiated the debt that was already there. The thing about it is Venezuela's oil is not light sweet crude. It's actually some pretty nasty stuff. And more often than not, they have to mix it with the oil that comes out of Sudan or Nigeria and all that, just to be able to make it palatable.
Yeah.
So you can back it with reserves, but what they sell their oil for is not actually what the spot price and the futures price of oil actually goes for. They do it a lot cheaper. It's almost like think of it as 16 karat gold on a spot price for 24 karat gold.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, it's not. It's definitely not sweet crude. It's not the same quality as the Saudis. It's not the same quality that heck even flows out of Pennsylvania and some places here in the United States. It's a very, very thick oil. It's very, very thick, and it needs to be refined heavily. That's a valid point you bring up, man. This is not something they could easily bring to market without the money needed to refine it.
Yeah, so I really see Venezuela, and Venezuela. If Maduro was smart, Maduro at this point would give over his administration to the BRICS countries,
right?
Because he thinks he can go it alone and stand up like North Korea. Well, you know what? He doesn't have the military or the nuclear capability to be a threat to the United States. The U.S. I'm surprised the U.S. hasn't gone in there. They probably have to either work to overthrow or decimate his rulership. The reason I think they haven't is because Venezuela and Maduro are paper tigers. They really don't have as big a threat as, say, Libya.
Yeah. With
the creation of their gold dinar. That would have been a massive threat. And since they couldn't leverage Gaddafi on, his weapons of mass destruction, which he got rid of. They couldn't leverage him on debt through the bankers. They had to do it the old-fashioned way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And the whole thing is it's Maduro. Venezuela is probably the easiest place right now in the entire hemisphere that could easily, practically the entire world as an oil country that could be very easily toppled. Except I think the saving grace here is that there is some Russian and Chinese operations that are occurring in the background in the sense that they are trying to stabilize the Venezuelan oil company. They know, what I've heard about this, years ago, that they know that the only thing to do is sit back, let the current administration in Venezuela, the current power structure there collapse, but try to, stay in contact with the captains of industry. The problem is also you have those American-backed, CIA-backed NGOs in operation in that country. So it's a precarious situation to say the least, Ken, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, Venezuela's new Petrocoin, it didn't last very long as the singular player on the block. I don't know if you heard about the oil coin that was just announced. A project led by a team that includes former commissioner of the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission, Bart Chilton.
Get out of here.
Has created the oil coin to tokenize barrels of oil. Guess what? This is the U.S.'s way of trying to save the petrodollar.
Unreal.
Hey, you might as well, because you know what? With the production cuts that the OPEC and Russia have agreed to, who's been cranking out oil as fast as they can? The U.S.
Yes.
And so the way you're going to do that then is you're going to tokenize. And see, since most of the frackers, as well as the oil companies, are so leveraged to the banks, all the banks have to do is come up and say, we are now going to capitalize using a cryptocurrency system. When you sell your oil, you're going to do it through us. And if you don't, we're going to call in your loans. Same. This is the primary reason, my opinion, outside of the Barrick Golds that are run by the Bushes and some of the other big ones. This is the reason I think that the gold and silver miners have not gotten together and just said, screw it, we're not going to deliver any gold to the COMEX or to supply the ETFs. They could easily, for the price arbitrage, fly or ship the stuff over to the Shanghai Gold Exchange and get a much better and much more equitable price. But the reason that they can't is because most of those mining operations are so leveraged from bank loans that the moment they do that, the banks are going to call in all those loans, they'll default, and the banks take over the companies.
Right, exactly. It's I mean, it really is a crazy situation. Now, we're hearing the Chinese saying, Ken, that they are ready to launch the new petro yuan gold standard sometime towards the end of this year, or shortly thereafter.
At least the yuan denominated oil contract.
Yeah.
How they're going to integrate that with the gold? From what I've heard, a lot of people have poo-pooed it in the mainstream, as well as some of the guys who are big in there. I know that who is this? Not Steve St. Angelo, but the other one who works at Small Gold. Camisaro, Louis Camisaro. He completely discounts the whole thing. But the fact of the matter is, I think they missed a really big point. Backing the oil contract, because the oil contract is going to be a paper contract on the energy markets. What countries can do, and they can already do this, but this is a way to do it that's going to tie it in, is that they can then take their yuan that they get from the contract, and they can just simply buy a futures contract in the Shanghai Gold Exchange on their market. So really what you're doing is you're hedging your oil price through a yuan-denominated oil price. You're hedging the yuan currency by buying gold contracts. I mean, that's really what a futures market is, isn't it? You're protecting the cost of what your actual production is.
Correct.
So really what they're going to do is they're going to allow foreigners, and this is another thing. I don't know if you noticed, but Shenzhen, that market, tied directly with Hong Kong. Hong Kong is going to be the conduit to allow foreigners to deliver gold, where in the mainland you can't take gold out that you purchase.
Correct. In Shanghai, you can't take out the gold that you purchased. It's a game changer, man. It's definitely a game changer what the Chinese are doing. Anybody who just doesn't see it, I mean, what a better alternative it is to deal with this than it is to deal with the current petrodollar system. The dollar has strings attached to it. The yuan doesn't have any of those strings attached to it. You don't want to deal with the yuan. You could swap it out for a futures contract in gold, and because it's Hong Kong and the new parameters with Shanghai, you could actually have it delivered. You could have it settled. So it's still a better option than what the U.S. is doing.
Right. And I think, getting on a little quick side note, one of the big reasons I think that China has done more of a crackdown on its cryptocurrency exchanges as opposed to, say, Japan. Because Japan, the yen is actually a much more floating currency. Yeah. Japan does not give a rat's if their investors take the yen out of the country and go spend it elsewhere. They're just printing as much as possible. But China, of course, they've imposed capital controls. And one of the reasons that a lot of the wealthy Chinese were using Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies was a way to funnel money out of China into other hard currencies. So, that's a big thing that a lot of analysts have been missing. They just think that China is just doing a crackdown. They hate cryptocurrencies. No. China is just doing it to protect the yuan, because the last thing they want to do is see deflation hit their economy by seeing a lot of their money leave the country.
Yeah, absolutely correct.
Yeah, because Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, and I'm going to say this, okay, Bitcoin may not be a bubble and it may not be a mania, but the people buying it are in a mania. The investors are in a mania. I don't know how many people have come up to me and said, "Hey, how can I buy Bitcoin? What's Bitcoin?" They don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
And, they're just trying to jump into it like it's a .com bubble stock.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is that the vast majority of, there was an article that Zero Hedge put out today. If this is correct, Deutsche Bank thinks it discovered who's the one who's really pumping up the Bitcoin markets. And the fact of the matter is they're almost probably right. The former FX traders are now day trading Bitcoin. And what does it take to raise the price of Bitcoin? The majority of people who buy Bitcoin don't buy an actual Bitcoin. They buy fractions of it.
Right.
$20 here, $8 here, $100 here, maybe $1,000 here. And every time there's a buy, it it pushes up the price. And there's not a lot of sellers because everybody's holding.
Yeah.
Well, that's not really a market. In a true market, you have an equilibrium of buyers and sellers. And that's why I think there's so much volatility in Bitcoin, is because when there actually is a seller, the whole thing just drops $2,000 in a single trade.
Right.
So people got to be wary. And the thing also, when it comes to any investment, I don't know why people are treating Bitcoin any differently. What is the first rule of investing? I'll take your opinion on it, and then I'll give you mine.
The first rule of investing is know what the heck you're investing in.
The first rule of investing is you know your exit strategy before you even invest.
Yep.
You know what your goal is before you get in. Now, if you get in and you see the price suddenly go up, and your goal was, say, Bitcoin to $5,000, and it keeps going higher, and without taking your original capital and some profit out, then all you're doing is trading on emotion, and you inevitably fail. Any investment, I don't care if it's cryptocurrencies, I don't care if it's stocks, I don't care if it's gold or whatever, you always have an exit strategy before you begin. Because most people don't even know the basics of investing. They do the, what's the new term of the day? FOMO? Fear of missing out?
Yeah, FOMO.
And what's the big difference between American investors and say the rest of the world? That Warren Buffett, besides the fact that he gets so much inside information, we'll set that aside. Warren Buffett is a billionaire because he's a value investor. Yeah. He follows the old line of Rothschild, who said, "You buy when there's blood in the streets." He's a value investor. When somebody hates something, he likes it when the fundamentals are there. But American investors are all momentum traders. Yeah. If it's going up, we don't care about fundamentals and technicals. We want to buy and ride the wave.
Well, buy high, sell low. How it usually goes.
This is one of the reasons why it took so long after 2008. Remember, after 2008, all those people who lost 60% of their stock portfolios?
Yeah.
They said they'd never get in the market again. Never. Well, that was until it got up to 21,000.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, the stock market's never going to go down, and they're all back in.
And they're gonna ride that bad boy all the way to Dow 29,000, 30,000 until this thing, parabolically implodes upward.
Right, but the value investor bought at 6,600.
Absolutely. The value investor in Bitcoin, we came in at when it was a couple of dollars, maybe a few $100, maybe $100, $200. That was the last time I bought Bitcoin. Was around around the $200 mark. Was the last Bitcoin purchase I made.
Bingo. And there were, for those who pay attention to this, you take a look at what was going on. The Satoshi Nakamoto white paper came out in the exact same month as the stock market crash of October 2008. The Blythe Masters in 2009 left JP Morgan to start her own blockchain fintech company. These are the little things that value investors see early on to know that a lot of money is going into this technology, and this is going to be the thing. Bitcoin obviously took off in 2012 until Mt. Gox. And then it scared everybody away. So why all of a sudden in late 2015, or I should say middle of 2016, is it all of a sudden starting to go nuts? Why? Because the technology, those fintech companies all of a sudden are putting out now all the applications that they built from 2009 to 2016. Think about this. We are getting a new cryptocurrency, more than one new cryptocurrency per day. Per day.
Right.
And, one of the, I don't know if you saw the article that came out from Simon Black, the Sovereign Man, today.
No, I didn't see today's article.
A rational point of view. The future wealth in the blockchain won't come from Bitcoin, but from the innovations that come afterwards.
Correct.
All of the blockchain, if you think about Amazon, All the cryptocurrencies, nearly 1,400 cryptocurrencies, their market cap is about $500 billion. But that market cap isn't as much as what the market cap of Amazon, one single company, is. 567 billion, I believe. Now, Amazon is not worthy of that market cap. They have barely $4 billion in earnings, and their P/E ratio is up at 210. But why are people investing in Amazon? They're investing in Amazon for the future innovations that they see coming from the company. The acquisitions, the tie-ins, and what it's accomplished so far. So with that being said, what is the blockchain going to do for everything from energy to contracts to crypto finance as a whole, to you name it? It's going to take everything. So the money really isn't going to be made in day trading cryptocurrencies in the long run. In the short run, of course it is. But in the long run, it's going to be in finding these companies that are propping up. Besides fintech and crypto finance and blockchain companies that are going to emerge, what's the other industry that's really going to be a big boom for at least the next 10, 20 years? The pot industry. Here is something that's starting on the ground floor. It's been vilified and made illegal for decades, and yet the potential is something like, take Anheuser-Busch. Anheuser-Busch, a beer company that started in the 1860s from some immigrants and became so big that it was at one time the largest beer company in the world. That's what's going to happen with pot. And then once pot starts going, think of now we've got the technology now that we didn't have in the early 1920s before it became illegal, the technology to go ahead and take pot and to synthesize it and find uses for it that you couldn't even imagine.
Right, exactly. The
one thing that I'm wondering about is when we finally have the Great Reset and all this debt and money supply that's out there, when that finally flushes out,
right?
Where's the new capital going to be? Well, that's a great question. I don't think anybody has a real answer for it.
No.
But if you were to ask me, judging from everything that's going on, it's going to be a cryptocurrency, but it's going to be a cryptocurrency melded with gold.
Yeah.
Gold-backed cryptocurrencies are going to be the money of the future. The people are tired of fiat. They're not really sold completely into unbacked cryptocurrencies, but if you meld the two,
yeah,
gold and cryptocurrencies, then you're going to have the money of the future.
You do. That's what I've been saying, is that I think a lot of people are going a little crypto crazy, and they're avoiding, or they're missing what I say is the most undervalued asset out there, which is gold. Ken, I think you agree with that, man. I think there's a
value investing. What is the most undervalued asset right now? Silver.
Huge upside to silver. Right.
Silver. I mean, the thing about it is before cryptocurrencies came about, if you bought stock and your stock rose, okay, unless you were getting dividend paying stocks, most investors, as outside of the pure institutions, most investors would take their profits from their stocks and they would buy real estate, and they would buy commercial real estate, and they would buy businesses, and they would buy something with it. Holding something just to have paper wealth, and really that's what cryptocurrencies are, because your wealth is denominated in dollars. It's simply paper wealth. If you don't have any assets that you're doing with the profits from your cryptocurrencies, then it's really moot. It's meaningless. Okay, I'm rich on paper. Yay, why are you still living in a hovel? Why did you sell everything, that family in the Netherlands that's living in a campsite hoping for a pipe dream?
Yeah, exactly.
No, right. You take your profits and you put them into something that's going to generate then, for the long haul, a tangible asset. I think that's what's missing for a lot of these people. who are buying cryptocurrencies and holding on. Sure, most of them are not selling everything, but there is a large portion that are maxing out their credit cards and they're doing the whole thing to buy cryptocurrencies.
Yes, they are.
And the industry is just not, I mean, we're talking since 2009, it just doesn't have the track record that you want to stake your entire, life and lifestyle on for the dream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that.
And think about this, okay? Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a few of the Litecoin, Dogecoin, whatever. If you take a look even from the .com era, the first creations of something are gone. MySpace is gone. What was the first browser?
Friendster's gone.
What was the first
Remember
browser?
Friendster?
Yeah, Friendster.
The Internet Explorer, man.
It was
Netscape.
Netscape's gone. AOL is virtually gone. All of these are gone. Okay, but they were replaced by something, the second and third generations of it. These are what I would suggest people do is, ride your profits in the first wave of stuff, but start really putting your money into the things that are going to last the second and third generation, the blockchain future.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Hello?
Yeah,
okay.
I agree with that.
By the way, there's an interesting little thing. I wrote an article over yesterday. I call it the 21st century pay-per-view.
The 21st century pay. What exactly is that 21st century pay-per-view, Ken?
Well, there is an interesting thing because, as people cut the cords with cable and online streaming is pretty much becoming the norm.
Yeah.
And we're not talking YouTube here. Mm-hmm. We're not talking YouTube, but we're talking a lot of the major video sites. Remember Kim.com had Mega Upload?
Oh, yeah.
And, well, there's a whole bunch of them that are out there. There's like OpenLoad, Streamango, Rapid Video, a number of them.
Right.
But what they're doing is these are offshore server farms where people can upload, like, somebody records a TV show on their DVR and they'll upload it to this server farm, which is outside the purview of U.S. law and all that. And people can then use portals to then watch all the movies. Somebody in Mexico, brings a camera into a movie theater. As a matter of fact, there's a copy of Star Wars with Spanish audio already up. And the thing opened last night.
That's crazy, man.
Thor Ragnarok came out a week before. No. Why? Because they opened it up in Asia. It was a Russian cam.
Wow.
So these things are going up, and so people are watching all the TV shows, all the movies on these free sites because all you got to do is record it on your DVR, upload it, boom. So if a TV show comes out on the East Coast at 7 o'clock, within an hour after the show is done, it's already up, and you can watch it here on the West Coast before it even airs.
Yep, that's true. That's tremendous, man. It's
and so there's a piece of malware out there called cryptojacking.
What's that?
When you go to these online video sites, mm-hmm. and let me tell you something, tens, if not hundreds of millions of people all around the world go to these different sites.
Right. What
they do is software developers have created a type of cookie that when you connect to the site and you get the cookie, I want to call it, I don't want to call it malware because it isn't malicious, but it's a type of malware.
Mm-hmm.
It will connect through the cookie to your PC, and it will start using a portion of your PC's processing power to start mining cryptocurrencies while you watch.
Oh, yes. I've heard of this technology. There's a few companies that are doing this right now.
Yeah. So really what it is you're getting to watch the videos for free, but in essence, it's pay-per-view because they are able to use your processing power and your electricity to mine cryptocurrencies.
Brilliant. It's brilliant. And it's a code injection that does that. It's code injection.
And once you disconnect from the video site, that disconnects because it's tied through the cookie. So it's not like they load malware on there and they're mining on your PC forever. No, it's just while you're watching it at their sites. Right. This is going to be the future. What's going to happen? Apple
I'll be honest with you. We're working on the very same thing for the crypto school. We're going to be doing webinars where people are going to be logged onto the webinars, and we're going to make it free. And eventually, that's what we want. We want a completely free model where people can log on, and while they're logged on, a small percentage of CPU is used to mine cryptos, which help pay for the expenses of the school.
Exactly. That's the way of pay-per-view.
That's the
future of pay-per-view, and it's going to, and obviously the advertisers, that's still a gray area, because the advertisers, the model that Facebook and YouTube did for advertisers didn't work out very well. That's why there was a big hubbub.
Yeah.
But if you can make your money by mining cryptocurrencies,
I'll tell you
do a little bit of ads in between.
I'll tell you a little story. Okay. I'm not going to mention any names, but I had a buddy of mine, well-connected individual, did this for a major premium cable network. Kind of like your HBOs, your Cinemax, Showtime, one of those type of things. Okay, I'm not going to drop any names here, but what they did is they did a code injection on one of the series that they would play on this network. And so when all the systems went live, with the server was running in the background with this code injection in it, and it was mining Monero. Okay, and before the network realized what the heck was going on, they've mined $264,000 worth in about a month.
Nice.
It's insane, bro. It's insane.
Yeah, and you don't even notice it. The only time you notice it, and see, if the software developers are smart, obviously, you're going to use a portion, say 20-30% of somebody's CPU processing, because if you use too much, what you're going to do is your video you're watching is going to not run, and people are just going to leave, and they're not going to go to the site anyway. So you really can't kill the golden goose if you're going to do this type of thing.
Yeah. And it's not really malware. It really isn't. It's
right. It's not malware, but I'm not sure of a better.
I don't know of a better term to describe it either. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now that is the future pay-per-view, man. I mean, all these old modalities are being done away with, man. I love it. I love it. Exactly. Okay, let me ask you this: what's your take on the Middle East situation over there?
I was just about to transition into that.
Perfect. Man. Go for it.
Yeah. I have a different, maybe I've tried to keep up on your morning shows, and I'm probably about 5 shows behind. Yeah. But the thing that I believe Trump making Jerusalem, announcing that they're going to make Jerusalem the capital and eventually move the embassy over there, is a gambit. Because Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, and Syria are all
Turkey
into it, and Turkey, and so they need to create a false flag that's going to enrage the Muslim world and get them back focused, and less putting focus on moving towards Eurasia.
Yeah,
that's all it's about. Because there's really no purpose for this. They fail. I honestly believe that the deep state failed in trying to start a war with North Korea. That ship has sailed. So they have to start something. And Israel and Netanyahu is more than happy to do this, because Netanyahu is, just a hair's breadth from getting kicked out of power for corruption charges, and starting a war where the Middle East comes after them is going to keep him in power.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're not going to want to change leadership in the middle of all these missile strikes and conflicts. But the fact of the matter is, too, this gets back to something that goes back to my book, The Israel Deception. If you look at the standard Christian prophecy that Russia, Magog, Gog and Magog, and the rest of it, they're all going to come after Israel.
Yeah, it's a bunch of hogwash, man. That's
Israel is one who's trying to trigger everybody into war.
Yeah.
So it's the exact opposite. Israel is trying to create war against the others. And if that's the case, then that's certainly not something that God would either condone or put his hand in.
Right. Right. Well, it's kind of sickens me, the convoluted, upside down nature of evangelical Christianity in America in particular. It's preposterous.
Well, it's not surprising. Because if you take a look, the original Greek word in the Bible was assembly.
Yeah.
And how big is an assembly? Well, Jesus sort of said it. When 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there.
Right.
All you need is 2 or 3.
Correct.
In agreement. Not a whole, building and construction. Those are based on the word church. Now, if you look at the word church, church is not assembly. Every pastor will tell you it is, but it's not. Church actually comes from the latter Greek word kuriaton. And guess what the definition of kuriaton is?
No, I don't know.
A secular Lord's house.
Ooh.
It's not the Lord's house. It says the secular Lord's house. And what is a church? Church is a corporation. It's a man-made construct.
Bam.
The secular Lord's house.
That's right. And that's that whole entire 501c3 nonsense.
Not just that.
That's like pastors calling their wives first lady. What the hell is that all about?
Yeah,
every time I go to a church these days, their pastors' wives are called first lady. I want to puke.
Think about this. Every church is built like a corporation.
It is.
Because you have the pastor, the CEO, you have the elders, which are the board of directors, you have the associate pastors, which are the managers, and you have the congregation, which are the employees.
Correct. And Ken, while I have you on the air, and this is important, dude, you and I had this talk a long while ago between the Greek version of hierarchical structure versus the Hebraic version of hierarchical structure. And can you tell the audiences the difference between those two and why the quote-unquote church that everybody happens to attend on Sunday or goes to church on Sunday, what is the big difference between that and the original concept of church as it was dispensed to Christ and the apostles?
Exactly. I just explained the Greek model.
Yeah.
It's a pyramid. It's got the CEO at the top. It's got the elders. It's got the associate pastors. It's got the people. It's a pyramid. That's the Greek model. That's where the corporate world runs on too. The Hebraic model is based on this. Okay. Think of concentric circles expanding out upon each other. In the center circle is Christ. You have to have and according to the Hebraic model, you have to have your relationship with Christ be rock solid before you start moving out to the latter circles. The latter circles then are your family. Then the latter circles out are your neighbors. Then the small community. And then finally, the outside circles would be the larger community or, say, a large assembly, a church. But most people, because of the Greek model, they think the church is first, and the church is what gets them to the center in their relationship with Christ. It's completely backwards. And that's why most Christians, after they say the sinner's prayer, their life never changes because they are not solidifying and going through their quote-unquote journey in wilderness in the center before then they can start going out. You see this in what's going on today with relationships, just average everyday relationships. Most people have an unloving spirit. They don't love themselves. If you remember the 2 commandments that Jesus said, love thy God above all things and love thy neighbor as you love yourself.
Right.
Most people can love their neighbors, but they don't love themselves.
Right.
And so most people get into relationships because they need somebody else to love them to fill the void that they don't love themselves.
Right.
Well, if you don't love yourself and you don't have that strong relationship, hold on. Gotta love the cough button. You don't have that strong relationship with Christ, then everything else is just, shifting sand and a bad foundation. And that's why you have everybody sick, ill, poor.
Yes.
Trying to represent Christ. If I was somebody who wasn't a Christian, and I saw somebody how their life was who claims to be a Christian, I wouldn't do it either.
No, I wouldn't do it either.
Because the fruit of people's lives and actions are supposed to be the representation, not their words.
Yeah, dude, I'll be honest with you. I've talked to so many young guys, guys basically our age, Ken, and a little younger, who've burned themselves out in ministry because they went into ministry because they had high aspirations. They thought people were like-minded and like-hearted. And what occurred is they were absolutely burned out. They had no help. Them and their families, and God forbid if they had a family, they were living on the poverty line. And and most Christians I talk to, it's just they think there's some sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Some sort of virtue in struggling. There's some sort of virtue in the fact that I can't pay my bills week after week, month after month. There's some sort of virtue like, honey. the car's broken down again, but we're going to walk in the 5-degree cold weather because bless Jesus, God is good all the time. And as if it's some sort of you're playing a martyr. No, you're not playing a martyr. You're playing a fool. You're playing a fool. And Ken, you hit the nail on the head. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Man, you know how many Christians hate themselves? They hate themselves. Exactly. They love struggling. They love, their version of life is at the end of it. At the end of this time, they're going to crawl through the portals of eternity, dragging by their nails. They're going to crawl through with tattered clothing, beaten, battered, and bruised, and say, "Praise Jesus, I finally showed up." That's not the victorious life. If you think that's the victorious life, you can have it. You can keep it. And at the same time, these Christians are out there saying, "Look, be just like me. I don't want to be like you. You're miserable."
What scares me to death is when, honestly, a Christian or somebody who says they're a Christian praises God when something of man is what helps them. I know somebody who's gone through cancer treatments. They went through chemo and they went through all this, and they're praising God that they're getting rid of cancer. You're praising God because God didn't intervene in your life at all. You rejected his trust and instead went to man. Right. That's the hypocrisy of the greatest level.
It is. And what also happens to the verse in Proverbs that's so often true over and over and over again, because I'm a firm believer that you never break God's laws, you could only confirm them, is this: my people die for lack of knowledge.
Right.
We have the most brain-dead Christian generation in world history. In world history, Ken.
Well, the problem is that people put their trust in the wrong things.
People are lazy. That's the problem.
Well, it's not just lazy. It's they put their trust in the wrong things. Why is everybody talking about the NFL? Who gives a rat's what Colin Kaepernick did? How does that affect your life? How does he affect your life or his kneeling or anybody else kneeling? It doesn't. But what it does is it should be a wake-up call that you're putting too much trust and stock in a bunch of millionaires living behind a gate trying to tell you how oppressed they are.
Right.
It's the same thing with a pastor. Why are these mega pastors, the Joel Osteens, the Creflo Dollars, the Jesse Jacksons, why the heck do you put your trust in these individuals when really, it doesn't take too much to see that they're out for themselves? Put your trust in the relationship. Put your trust in hearing. There's a chapter I'm working on a book. I'm calling it the 4 simple instructions to spiritual enlightenment. Mm-hmm. And it really breaks down to repentance, surrender, obedience, and trust. If you go to a church, they talk about repentance all the time. They talk about obedience all the time. You notice these pastors never teach people how to do it. Mm-hmm. They just talk about it as if it's some enlightenment. You're supposed to instantly know what it means. No, there's a reason why Moses went 40 years in the wilderness. There's a reason why Paul went 12 years in the wilderness, because it's a process you must work out to get rid of the old self and move to the new self.
Yeah.
So with this being said, we put our trust too much in man, in government, why are we so worried about Donald Trump? Why are we so worried about what Congress is going to do with this? You know what? We can't control it.
No.
They're going to do what they're going to do. Right. No matter what they do, focus yourself on the spiritual side, and everything else around you will take care of itself.
Correct. 1,000%. 1,000%. Absolutely. Ken, your closing comments, sir. Go for it.
Well, I know, if people have actually, with an open mind, gone out to my website, I write a lot on cryptocurrencies. I write a lot on blockchain, and write a lot on finance. I've been criticized by some, but I've been at least given some kudos by others that they think that I hate cryptocurrencies and that I'm against Bitcoin and against that.
Far from the truth. You never ever stated such things, ever.
Exactly. I am doing it from a neutral sort of looking at it from the outside. I'm trying to get both positive and negative. And you'll notice from my articles, right? There's times I in a sense promote cryptocurrencies. I talk about how well they're doing. the one thing I want people to do is to try to remember that in a mania, emotion will make you make decisions that you wouldn't normally do. And those decisions, just like for those who lost during the .com or who lost in 2008, when they bought their mansions, they got the subprime loans, every single thing throughout there is always a point where things stop going up. And when they stop going up, then they usually fall much faster than they do. Make sure you know your exit strategies in any investment you ever do. Make sure you have a goal, a program, a process that you do for, doesn't matter, cryptocurrencies, gold, silver, real estate, etc. Always have an exit strategy before you go in. Yeah. And with that being said, the most important thing really to look at is we are at that point where technology is about to change. We're entering 2018. 2018, whether the Economist cover thing about a new currency is right or not, I almost guarantee that it is right, but we really don't know if it's going to be something that the powers that be control, or if it's going to come out of the BRICS nations in China, or if it's going to come out of something that nobody even can imagine. But we are in that frequency shift we talked about definitely for the last 2-3 years, and we're entering into a year where everything is going to change.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I think it's a massive shift that we're witnessing, man. It's a massive shift.
Yeah, ride it. Ride that wave. Ride the wave with open eyes. That doesn't mean that like with any investment, put some money in that you can speculate. In almost any case, even well, besides the institutional brokers, somebody who is big on investing, they'll tell you that you put a certain amount of money into solid assets, you put a certain amount of money into speculation. Well, don't be afraid to put some of that money into speculation. And if you lose it, you lose it. You go in there with the open eyes that, it is speculation. But then you still have the 80% or 90% or whatever that are solid investments to go. And don't get greedy. Always take your profits, always take your capital out and ride the house. That's really the thing to say. There is so much money out there. It is very easy to start and get into something and be able to get your capital out, get some profit out, and ride the wave.
Yep. Absolutely correct. And be pragmatic about the whole entire thing. Don't get attached into things. Don't get married to paradigms. Keep an open mind.
Yeah, and learn. Don't go up to somebody and say, "Hey, Bitcoin's price is going up. How do I get some?" No, just do some. Come to Rogue Money. Come to the Daily Economist. There's a myriad of YouTube videos that aren't people trying to hawk these, get rich quick schemes. I'll be honest with you. Anybody who says that Bitcoin's going to $1 million, I instantly tune them off. But if somebody says that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are going to change finance and here's how they're going to do it, those are the people you listen to. You don't have to take their information or their advice, but at least they take time to look at the big picture rather than the day trading mentality of, get rich quick.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Very well said, Ken. Very well said. And Ken, give out your website as well as your social media if you have it.
Yeah, thedailyeconomist.com is my website, and also out on YouTube, you can just search my name, Ken Schortgen, or The Daily Economist, and I had started out trying to do 6 little podcasts, U.S. finance and economics, second one was geopolitics, and the third one was gold, Bitcoin, and cryptocurrency report, and do that twice a week. But I found out that anytime I did geopolitics, YouTube demonetized those instantly.
Wow.
So I said, screw it. I gave up on those. Now I'm going to do 6 a week between 15 and 25 minutes. U.S. finance, crypto, U.S. finance, crypto, U.S. finance, crypto.
There you go.
So you can stay up to date with those.
Absolutely. Ken Schortgen Jr., folks, the man, he is AKA the professor. Great to have him on. Again, check out his work. thedailyeconomist.com, dailyeconomist.com, as well as roguemoney.net. And check out, Ken, you see your YouTube is still viable, right? You still active?
Oh yeah. I did a podcast this morning.
There you go. Check out his YouTube, The Daily Economist, as well. And make sure you subscribe to that and hit that notification bell so when Ken posts up a new video, you are alerted. And with that being said, folks, we're over now. Take it away, CJ.